Welcome to the Fourth and Fast Break podcast. I'm your humble, delighted, and always blessed host, Joshua McCain. And today, on the first episode, I have a little segment I want to call Always the Groomsman and Never the Groom. Now, women would say always the bridesmaid and never the bride, which basically means always being the predicate and never the subject, which also means never getting the ring, always watching someone else get the ring. And so I want to go through 5 teams/players who's always watching somebody else get the ring and never have the ring. Number 5, I'm going to start off with Oregon in football. Oregon's it's 166-50 since 2010. They've been to 2 national championships since 2010. Only 4 teams have better records than them in that same time frame. That's the Georgia Bulldogs, which they have 2 national championships. The Clemson Tigers, they have 2 national championships. Ohio State, they have 2 national championships. And then the Alabama Crimson Tide, they have 6 national titles in that span. Now, Oregon isn't lacking the resources. Oregon isn't really lacking the roster, because they've had good quarterbacks over that same time frame. Back in 2010, when they made that first national championship, Anthony Dixon, who has always been it was Dennis Dixon. I'm sorry. He was a really good quarterback for his time. LaMichael James, really good running back. I think he finished top 5 in the Heisman voting. I believe he finished number 2 behind Cam Newton that year in the Heisman race. Marcus Mariota, we know, had one of the best Heisman seasons of all time in 2014 when they went back to the national championship. They've also had Justin Herbert, who had a really good career at Oregon. Bo Nix came back and resurrected his career at Oregon. And then most recently, we also had Dylan Gabriel. And then most recently, of course, they have Dante Moore, who projected to be the number 1 quarterback off the board this coming up draft. Then they've had some really good defensive players. DeForest Buckner and Eric Armstead, they played on the same defensive line that went to the national championship. DeAnthony Thomas, who was one of the most phenomenal all-purpose players in his time in college football. So it's not the players that they've had, and I think they've had some really good coaches. I think Mark Helfrich was a really good coach after Chip Kelly left. They did go through a stretch where through 2015 through 2019, they didn't have really good seasons, but the last 3 years they went 12-2, 12-2, and then 13-2. They won the Fiesta Bowl in 23. In 24, they lost in the quarterfinal to the eventual champions Ohio State. They were the number 1 team in the country. They were the number 1 seed. That was definitely a college football playoff boo-boo, because no way Oregon should have been the number 1 team in the country, and they had to face off against Ohio State in the first game that they played of the playoff. And then this past season, they lost in the Orange Bowl to Indiana, of course, eventual national champions again. So they've lost to the eventual national champions the last 2 seasons. So they definitely fit the always the groomsman, never the groom. And I think this year is a great chance for them. They have one of the best pass rushers in Uiagalelei. They have one of the best quarterbacks in Dante Moore. And then they have a really good corner as well. And I think their secondary should be pretty good, as well as their D-line. So I think on that first and that back level, they should have a really good squad. I think Oregon this year has a chance to get off this list. Now we'll go to number 4. This is a guy who's still on this list, and it's the longevity, really. That's impressive. However, because he's still in the league, he is still going to be on this list, and that's the Beard, James Harden. He won MVP back in 2018-19. He led the league in scoring 3 times in his career, and that's all was back-to-back in 17-18, 18-19, and 19-20. And then he's made the playoffs every year of his career. His career playoff record is 98-93. So he's 5 games above 500 in the playoffs. Now, his numbers in the playoffs, they dip, because every year that he, led the league in scoring, his numbers dipped in the playoffs. He averaged 35 one year, he averaged 31 another year, then he averaged, I think it was 32 another year, but his averages came down at least 5 points in almost every season. And everybody remembers the stinkers, of course. I think the biggest thing everybody remembers from this past year is he had multiple games where he had more turnovers than he had field goals made, which is crazy because if he had 7 turnovers, that means he only made 6 field goals. And so that is definitely something James Harden has dealt with his whole playoff career. So I just want to go through some of the games that he's had, some of the most notable non-good games he's had, I guess you could say, in the playoffs. We'll start with one of the ones that really shocked me back when I was watching it in 2015. This was the Warriors, the first year the Warriors had put them out of the playoffs, but it wouldn't be the last time because they did it 3 straight years, 4 straight years. In 2015, the conference finals, it was game 5, the closeout game, ended up being the closeout game for Golden State to go to the championship. He had 14 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 12 turnovers, an NBA record for turnovers in a game. And it was 2 for 11 shooting. We'll go to number 2. The second one was game 5 versus the Milwaukee Bucks when he was in Brooklyn. Now, in 2021, I can't really say I blame James Harden much, but they always say if you're on the court, you got to play. If you suit up, you have to play. But he did have a grade 2 hamstring, and in that game 5, he was 5 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists, and he was 1 of 10 shooting. Now, Brooklyn won the game. Brooklyn won the game because KD in that same game put up it was a Herculean effort basically, but he just he looked like a shell of himself in that series. So like I said, he had a hamstring, so I kind of give him a little slack on that one. Another game that I remember, game 6 in the Western Conference semis in 2017, he had 10 points, 7 assists, 6 turnovers on 2 for 11 shooting, and he was 2 from 9 from 3. And there was in this game, and I went back and looked at these stats. Kawhi Leonard didn't even play in this game. Everybody thought they were going to force a game 7. Everybody was like, "Yeah, this is foregone conclusion. They're going to get a game 7." And everybody that remember watching the playoffs back then, everybody knows the picture of him going up for the game-winning shot and Manu Ginobili blocking his shot from behind. And at the time, Manu Ginobili was 39 years old, and I still have a little laugh at that because I'm like, dang, it's just the impetum, the epitome of his career in the playoffs to get blocked by 39-year-old Manu Ginobili. Another game that we can call a Harden stinker, game 6 of the 2023 Eastern Conference Finals. He went 13 points, 9 assists, 3 turnovers, only 3 turnovers, but he was 4 of 16 shooting, and he was 0 from 6 from 3. Now, the Sixers, I remember this one, the Sixers were up 3-2, and Jason Tatum, and they were up 3-2, and they were up kind of big, not double. I don't think it was double digits in the fourth quarter, but Jason Tatum absolutely just took over the game, and that's the game I said, oh man, Jason Tatum he's officially like, oh yeah, I'm here, and they had went to the finals the year before, but Jason Tatum, people had been, I don't know about Tatum, and Tatum really took over that game, but Harden, he did not. And then game 7, it was even worse for Harden, honestly. So, can James Harden get off this list? He can, but man, Cleveland, I'm not sure. I'm not sure they have the goods, on that team to be able to afford to get over him having 7 turnovers and making 5 shots. So I don't know. I think Harden, if he's still playing, and I have this update this list again in July of 2027, he'll most likely be on it. Now we'll go to the number 3 player, and you probably can kind of figure out who's the next 3, but I might shock you. I don't know. Number 3, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is 76-31 in his career. He's a 2-time MVP. He's passed for 22,608 yards, has 187 touchdowns, and he's also set the record for the most career rushing yards by a quarterback. But we get to his playoff stats. His playoff stats, he has 1,753 yards, 10 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. His passer rating goes down to an 84.6. His stats rushing now, he is 86 carries, 533 yards, 6.2 yards a carry. He only has 1 rushing touchdown in the playoffs. 1. That is, I looked that up. That was kind of shocking to me. I'm not gonna lie. Lamar Jackson in his career, I just run down some of his games in the playoffs. In 2018, he went 14 for 29, 194 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception versus the Chargers. He had 9 carries for 54 yards. In 2019, and that shocker and upset versus the Titans, he went 31 for 59, 365 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 20 carries, 143 yards. He kind of, those stats and watching that game, it's a little misleading on both sides because Lamar was actually, he was not bad, but he also wasn't as good as those, some of these stats would show. Like you'd see the 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, like, well, that's kind of bad, but you see 365 yards. It was a cluster of bad things that happened against that Titans team in that wild card game, and then the 2020 wild card game. It was a tough watch. Like that whole team really was. He went 17 for 24, 179 yards passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He 16 carries, 136 yards. And at that time, because they ended up winning that game, and at that time they had a big rivalry with the Titans. And this was a road game because the Titans, they won a division, and the Titans had come off of beating them. And Titans and Ravens, everybody was saying, oh, this is back to Eddie George versus Ray Lewis days when the Titans played the Ravens a couple times in the playoffs in the early 2000s. And this was just a game where the Ravens were like, just don't lose. They did, it wasn't a pretty game from them, but just let's just not lose this game. And so the next week, the Buffalo Bills game, it was horrendous. He went 14 for 24, 162 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. He goes 9 carries for 34 yards. And I remember after that game, everybody was saying, did the Bills show the recipe of what you need to do against Lamar Jackson, because he's coming a year removed from winning the MVP. So everybody said, well, is this this is how you beat him. Then the next time that he plays in the playoffs, it goes to 2023 versus the Texans, and this was a young C.J. Stroud and young Texans team, and he didn't have to really do much. He goes 17 for 24, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, but he goes 11 carries for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. This was just let's just smack Houston around because they're young. It's their first time in the playoffs, and they just they took care of business. Well, the 2023 AFC Championship game, and I think a lot of people remember this game because one, Zay Flowers, he goes for the extension and fumbles. Chiefs tried to let they tried to give the Ravens a chance to go to the Super Bowl, and the Ravens just never wanted it in this game. Lamar just never seemed like he wanted to win this football game. He went 20 for 37, 272 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He had 8 carries for 54 yards. This is a game I think Ravens fans don't even turn on and watch because it's not like a game where it's like, oh my gosh, it's just a debilitating loss. You fumble your kickoff return, or you fumble the onside kick to seal the game. It was just it just, you didn't want to win. It just felt like they did not want to win this game. And the Chiefs, they weren't really trying to win it either. Like, the Ravens had a perfect opportunity at home, and they just messed that one up big time. Then 2024 versus the Texans, he goes 16 for 22, 212 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 11 carries, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then in 24, his last playoff game, which was against the Chiefs, 20 for 32, 217 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 5 carries, 11 yards. That for Lamar, and the reason why I put him on here by himself, he's the head of the snake, of course, but the Ravens have done a lot of things to not help out Lamar. They have done a lot. Like I said, I brought the Zay Flowers game, well, the instance in the 2023 AFC Championship game, and I'm not saying if he, but if he goes in for a touchdown there, they cut the lead down, and they have a better chance of winning that game. So it's not just Lamar on his own, but he has had some games in there where I just said, man, this is tough to watch. Like, this isn't good. My number 2 player, I'm going to go the baseball route. That's Aaron Judge. And now Aaron Judge deserves to be on here by himself. He's a 3-time MVP, 22, 24, and 25. In 2022, in his regular season, he was the first. He won his first MVP. He broke the single season American League record with 62 home runs. And they lost in the ALCS versus the Houston Astros. They got swept. And he, in his regular season stats, he played 157 games. He had 177 hits, 425 on base percentage. He had a 686 slugging, and he had a his OPS was 1.111. And if you don't know what OPS means, it's on base plus slugging. And if you have that, if you have a 800, 850 or more OPS, you're in the elite category, where he's like elite to have basically a 1,000 OPS. He had 111 walks. Now, going to his playoff stats, he hit in the 2022 postseason. He hit 139. He had 5 hits, 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, and 5 runs scored in 9 games in the postseason. Let's go to his second MVP season. That was in 2024. He won that one unanimously. He had 322 batting average. He had 58 home runs and 144 RBIs. And they lost in the World Series to the Los Angeles Dodgers. His 58 home runs led the MLB. His 144 RBIs led the MLB. He had a 322 batting average. He had a 458 OBP on base percentage. He had a 701 slugging percentage. And this year, again, a staggering 1.159 OPS, which is utterly insane for a whole season, for a whole 158 games. He had 180 hits. He didn't lead the league in hits, and had 122 runs scored. Now, we go to his 2024 postseason stats. He hit 184. He had 9 hits, 3 home runs, 9 RBIs, and 8 runs scored in 14 games. 14 games in 2024. Now, last and certainly not least, let's go to 2025, where he won his most recent MVP. Now, in 2025 in the regular season, he had a batting average of 331. He played 152 games, 53 home runs, 114 RBIs, 137 runs. He led the MLB in on-base percentage. He had a 457. He led the league in slugging percentage. He had a 688 slugging percentage. And then add those together, his OPS was another staggering 1144, and he led the MLB in this one. Well, this past postseason, he hit 500. He had 13 hits, 1 home run, 7 ribbies, 5 runs scored in 7 games. And they got put out in the They got put out postseason to the Toronto Blue Jays in the ALDS in 5 games. Now with Aaron Judge, he has been, man, his postseason and regular season is crazy. Like how bad he looks, and it's like it got to a point in 22 and 24. I'm like, this dude, like, and this is coming off his MVP season. Like he's had other bad postseasons. He didn't win the MVP, but it's MVP seasons. He's hitting like you're literally hitting 169. Like that is, it's insane because you just don't see a drop off like that from a player that had such great numbers in the regular season. You hitting 139, and you've had phenomenal numbers in the regular season, like crazy numbers. You hit like those 3 MVP seasons. His OPS is 1,100 or more. That is insane how bad he has looked in the postseason. Now this past postseason, he had a really solid postseason that you saw. He hit 500, got on base 50% of the time. He got 50% of the time. He got up to the plate. He got a hit in the 7 games that they played. So I think for Aaron Judge, can he get off this list this year? I don't know, because this is more of an Aaron Judge thing than it is a Yankees thing. But Aaron Judge, if Aaron Judge plays like he did in last playoffs, and then he can get a little help this time around, then of course I believe the Yankees, that they're good enough. They have the players to be able to win a World Series for the first time since 2009. And then the number one player on here, number one player / team. This is definitely an everybody award, but this guy is the quarterback of the team, so he gets the recognition. But this will be Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen has an 81-37 record since 2020. Now this is not his whole career. Like since 2020, he's won. Like the Buffalo Bills has won 81 games. He's won MVP, and every season since 2020, he's had at least 4,900 total yards. 4,900 total yards every season since 2020. He has been one of the best, and in my opinion, I'll go off to say I think he is the best quarterback in the NFL because he's the engine, he's the machine of this offense. Now, this past year, James Cook had a really great season, and I think him coming along definitely is going to help Josh Allen not have to have so much of the burden of the offense that he's had since he's gotten to Buffalo, and they're not just banking on him just every time being Superman, make just to throw this ball through a 1 inch 1 inch vision, being able to right 1 inch over a guy's fingertips. His playoff stats are ridiculous. He is 13 games in the playoffs, 330 of 495. He has 330 completions to 495 attempts, 3,632 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions with a passer rating of 102.4. His rushing stats in 13 games, 123 attempts, 701 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns rushing, and 5.7 per attempt. This is more, like I said, number one is basically the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen is just the face of them. Because, and this is not even a bad thing. I wouldn't even say I'm going Josh Allen being number one on this list, the Buffalo Bills being a bad thing. Like, he has definitely did what he needed to do in almost every playoff game. You look at those stats, 330 for 495, 3,632 yards to 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and 102 passer rating with 701 yards. That's 13 games. So let's say we're 13 games through a 17-game season. That's just, that, like people are saying, that's a unanimous MVP. 13 games, and these are 13 high-level games. If you lose, you're out. It's crazy. And Buffalo is kind of feel like this is just who they are. They lost 4 straight in the '90s in the Super Bowl. They're not even getting to the Super Bowl now. They're losing in the AFC Championship game. Like they're losing. They're going right. Again against Kansas City when they got Kansas City and Buffalo finally, and they still couldn't beat them. They lose that snow game against not Buffalo. I'm sorry, Cincinnati in 22. It's just like they just can't get over themselves. Now I will say this: Josh Allen's worst playoff game is most definitely this past year, because he had 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions versus the Broncos, and he ran for 66 yards. But that fumble right before halftime, they gave the Broncos a chance to get in field goal range. That really hurt the team, because that's three points they wouldn't have had, and so that the game may not even go to overtime. So that's it for today's video. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like the content, and I definitely appreciate all the support for the channel. And we will be coming back again with another episode. Next time we'll be talking about NBA free agency. So until then, take care of yourselves and each other.